The Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights that works under Biden doesn't even know about the greatest breach of civil rights in American history. And it's part of the lawsuit that is Missouri versus Biden, making its way up to the Supreme Court. We'll give you an overview of it.
Ms. Clark, in the Missouri versus Biden case in the district court, the court explained, quote, if the allegations made by the plaintiffs are true, the present case arguably involves the most massive attack on free speech in United States history, close quote.
This is Dan Bishop. He's a rep from North Carolina. Good guy. We got to make this guy famous. So spread the link.
Court went on to find that the plaintiffs were reasonably likely to succeed on the merits at trial, entered a preliminary injunction. The Fifth Circuit has affirmed. Supreme Court has taken jurisdiction of the case. Of course, that's all civil litigation.
So now we've established it. This is a court case about the greatest breach of civil rights, of your free speech in the United States history. And this is on Dan Bishop's Twitter. The Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the DOJ has zero awareness of even the Missouri versus Biden case, which is set to be heard by the Supreme Court. She knows nothing because she's an ignorant diversity hire that was hired not based on her merit at all. A U.S. District Court called the Biden administration's actions in the case, quote, the most massive attack against free speech in United States history. Welcome to Doug in Exile. I'm Doug TenNapel. This is where the happy patriots are. Hang out and listen and learn a little something. Let's go.
Is any criminal investigation or prosecution of the persons responsible for that activity in the FBI, CISA, and at the White House and their co-conspirators underway in the Civil Rights Division?
Congressman, I'm not familiar with this litigation, but...
I kind of like this Dan Bishop guy. What do you guys think? Thumbs up in the comments?
Happy to bring your question back.
Thank you. So let me just make sure I understand that. You are not aware of the Missouri versus Biden litigation that is currently being taken up by the United States Supreme Court. Is that correct?
Unfortunately, I'm not, Congressman.
It's horrifying. He asks her, okay, we've done the civil case. Is there any formal prosecution coming from our government? She's all, what case is Missouri versus Biden? We've been covering it on this show for a year. Here's Jay Bhattacharya, one of the smartest men in the world. Apparently, the U.S. Department of Justice, in charge of protecting Americans against the civil rights violations, is unaware that the Biden administration violates the free speech rights of Americans at scale. The First Amendment can't protect itself. The Department of Justice is supposed to do that. This is the lady that's supposed to help you protect it.
Well, assuming that you're not aware of that, what reason would there be that the Civil Rights Division of the Justice Department leader is unaware of what a United States District Court has described as the most massive attack on free speech in the United States history?
If you could share more of the facts, that could be helpful, Congressman.
That makes me more informed on Missouri versus Biden than the Attorney General of your Civil Rights Division of the Biden administration. Me, a barely literate comic book artist. Here's the hill, Missouri versus Biden, and the crossroads of politics, censorship, and free speech. Just a quick review for you.
Otherwise, you just don't know. Is that correct?
That's correct. Unfortunately, this does not appear to be a case that I'm familiar with.
Well, good enough. I'm going to yield the balance of my time to the chairman.
I find that to be astounding.
Tell me the answer, and then I'll give you the answer back to you. What a moron. Here's the rest of that, the Hill article. Just a quick kind of overview. The federal appellate court concluded September 8th that multiple White House, Surgeon General, FBI, and Center for Disease Control officials likely breached the fine line separating permissible government persuasion and jawboning from illicit, quote, coercion and significant encouragement, unquote, when they repeatedly and often successfully lobbied social media companies, quote, to remove disfavored content and accounts from their sites, unquote. That affects all of us. That affects my job right here on YouTube and Twitter and Facebook. This is your government destroying your speech. And this lady didn't have the respect to even know the most basic fundamentals of her job. The biggest breach in history. It'd be like someone not being aware of slavery in America going, I don't know. And I'm the head of president of civil rights. You'd be an idiot. She ought to be fired. She ought to be drummed out of the Corps. She ought to be mocked out of her job. She ought to be ashamed and resign. I'm Doug in exile.